So you still have family in Kentucky and Tennessee?
Tennessee and Kansas City and Austin, Texas. That's
Uh-huh.
where my dad's two sisters and one brother that's left.
Do they farm?
No. Uncle Dickie, he worked in a factory job, and he's in, I think, early 70s. And my Aunt Norma, she's 86. And my Aunt Mary Lou, I think, is about 74, and she lives in Kansas City. Yeah, I've got a lot of cousins out there. I mean, my Aunt Norma and Aunt Mary Lou, yeah, they had quite a few kids, and got a lot of grandkids. And so, yeah, I've got cousins there in both places. California, just all over, really. Just
Yeah.
so.
What are some of your earliest memories that had to do with farming? And if you don't mind, I'll probably keep asking about farming
Yeah,
since
okay.
You've done it and your dad has done it. And
Yeah.
have you done it your whole life? Or?
Yeah, that's all I've done. I've not worked any public works. I've just was raised on a farm and knew how to try to make a living off of through your land. Just like I told you at church there yesterday, we got some geese when I was a little kid. Oh, I don't know where that picture's at, Carolyn, but anyhow, we had a picture. My great grandparents for Easter had colored us a goose egg.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was a little kid, we got pictures of it. But anyhow, I remember that. But anyhow, she gave each of us a great big goose egg for Easter. And I remember having those old geese. And that's why I got some. That's why I got some geese, because my great grandparents had some. And it's been fun having them around here. It's like you said, they're like a dog. They're a watchdog, I guess. Because whenever you drove in, I mean, I could hear them honking whenever you drove in. So,
yeah.
and.
Did they hollow out the egg?
I don't, I really don't. I don't know. I mean, I was only like 3 years old, something like that. But I do remember them handing us that egg. And we only got one per family. My sister and I, it was one egg between us, and my cousins did. And, I've told this story, I don't know how many times. Whenever I can't take tobacco. I mean, or chewing tobacco. My dad always used to chew, and Dean Ratcliffe, he always chewed tobacco. And when I was I probably was 5 or 6, and they used to have those plug of tobacco where they cut it off with a knife. Five Brothers, or I don't know what the name of it was, I can't remember. But anyhow, I wanted some of that, and Dean Ratcliffe, he said, "Here, kid, I'll cut you off some." And he cut me off some, and I started to chew it. And he said, "Now you got to swallow that juice, makes it taste good." And I remember I got sicker than a dog, and I never wanted any chewing tobacco after that. That was, and Dean, he was, I just remember he was a good man, but he would like to torment you, and he would, them little sweat bees would come out. I remember we was harvesting wheat, and of course it was hot and sweaty, and the old sweet sweat bee would land on me, and he'd take his finger and just barely touch it, and it'd sting the shit out of you. I mean, that just, and a kid like, yeah, that's some of the things I remember.
How old were you with the tobacco?
Oh, I wasn't probably 5 or 6. I wasn't
really?
wasn't very old. No. But gee, our neighbor over here, Gary Youngblood, Dean and Dad. Gary Youngblood started. They got him started farming, and there was a Sam Haddon that they helped start farm, and of course my dad helped me, and and Gary, he still farms, and his boys farm, and so yeah, and the one fellow that we have help us still is Tom Sterling, and he started helping Dean when he was 12 years old, driving a tractor and plowing.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it still carried on from when he was 12 years old. Tom's 65 now, and he still helps me. And he said, "I've been with him all my life." And I said, "Well, that's just about true." So, and Tom's also my cousin on my mother's side. So, it's a.
Is it Tom that's your best friend?
Yeah, Tom Shirley. Yeah. He's like I said, his mother was a Spellman, so was my mother. They were his grandfather and my great grandfather were brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And and I tell Tom he's more Spellman than I am. I said he's one more generation closer to him than I am, but he doesn't like to hear that. So, yeah.
He farms too.
No, he doesn't farm.
He just
No,
helps.
he just helps me. No, he's a truck driver, but now he always his dad farmed and worked at IBM but then they Rex they had 80 acres and they still got it, and that's and they rent it out, and so that's yeah, not everybody farms that they work for them, but there's a couple of them that Gary and Sam that went into farming after they helped Dane. So
Well, now if you were farming so young, helping on the farm and stuff,
yeah,
as you got older and say around 14 or 16, and you're in school, how did farming hurt or help you in school? Maybe with your studies, or even with socially, meeting other people, or dating and things. And
well, now my parents always, they wanted you to do good in school. My grandfather Spelring was a teacher, and he taught at Poland from 1931. He started teaching at Poland. He first started in 1928 at Fish Creek over in Owen County, but then he taught in Poland until they closed it down and moved everybody to Jackson Township, and I think that was in 68 or 69. And he had taught there over 30-some years there. And then my grandmother Trout, she was a school teacher too, and she was a math teacher, but she didn't like teaching the older kids. They weren't respectful enough, I guess, and so she went back she taught grade. At that point in time, you teach grade school or high school, whatever. If you could teach high schools, and then she went back to teaching grade school. But she was a math. So yeah, I was encouraged to do good at school. And but yes, I worked when we had cattle and hogs and yeah, it was all. It just was. If we got in late at night, you did your homework after that. I mean, that's.
Did you ever get in trouble in school?
For what reason? You mean just any reason?
Just any reason.
Just yeah, geez, we used to get on the school bus at 7:00 in the morning, and sometimes one year it started out we was on the bus at 7:15. And I've told Carolyn these stories. You ride the bus and you ride the bus, and GC was on there forever. And it wasn't anything not to pick on some of the kids. I mean, and one of the boys, I don't know, I got in trouble because we called him Siggy Piggy, and that got him upset. And yeah, I got a whack over Jackson Township for that. And then whenever I was a junior and a senior out at Van Buren, I had a problem that you couldn't chew gum, and I always chewed gum, and I would get whacks, and it was a Class 3 citizenship because I wouldn't obey that one rule. But I kind of made up for it. I mean, I always made good grades. I was in the top 10% of the class. Of course, there was only 60 in the class, so I guess that didn't.
Or top 2.
Yeah. So anyhow, it was yeah. But yeah, I got in trouble at school. That was the minor thing. Dad always did say if you got whack at school, you get it at home. Well, I got him at school, but he didn't do that. I mean, what'd you get it for? And I said chewing gum, and that was a minor infraction, I guess. So.
And you would get graded on citizenship.
Oh yeah, you chewed gum, you got automatic. I was on the student council, and then I couldn't be on the student council because I was a Class 3 citizen, and you couldn't be on the thing. So out of my senior year that I was on the student council, I only got to sit on the student council thing 6 weeks out of the whole year. So, and I had one teacher in particular who would follow me around the school, and her name was Mary Jane Rice, and she was a good teacher. Don't get me wrong, she was a good teacher, but she would follow me around and follow me to classes, and then would see if I was chewing gum. So that was. But we had good teachers. I mean, we had good teachers. We had, and Carolyn will tell you, Tommy Dale Thompson was an excellent math teacher at Van Buren, and this Eleanor Neal, she was our English teacher, and I had her I think I had her for Latin for 2 years, and then freshman English. No, not freshman English. No, maybe it was, and then junior and senior English we had her, and she was really a great teacher. And she's like 96 or 99 now. She and her mind's as sharp as a tack.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Thompson, he's the one. He's passed away, hasn't he?
No, not Tommy Dale. No, Tommy
No.
Dale's. He's
I
still
was
here.
thinking of a teacher who would. Just heard other people say that he would say, "Put your finner right here." And I think Carolyn would know who that.
Maybe she knows who it is. I don't know.
But I'm not sure.
I don't know who that is, but Carolyn went out there, Van Buren longer than I did. Of course, we went to Jackson Township. You went till you was in 8th grade, and then they would transfer you out to Van Buren, and then. So we went. It used to be the 1 through 8. Well, then it got to be that you went through the 7th grade. In the 8th grade, they shipped you out there. Well, then the same year that we went out there in the 8th grade, then they moved the 7th grade too. So then Jackson Township was just 1 through 6 in at that point in time.